Hello, one and all. I am so excited with my guest today, Teresa Roberts Logan. You're going to find out so much more in just a moment. The laughing redhead herself. As you know, I like to start out with my theme song. So here we go.
Oh, I like that.
So welcome to the
No, I'm still in the thing.
You go. Because I have plenty to read while you sit there in that meditative
Not
state.
really.
I have a gigantic resume. Teresa Roberts Logan. I'm only going to read parts of it because otherwise I wouldn't have any time to talk to her. But she is an award-winning writer, stand-up comic, cartoonist. She's been a featured comic on such comedy shows as A&E's Evening at the Improv, Comedy on the Road. She's made comedy appearances on HBO, the Comedy Channel, the Food Network. Something gets a lot of laughs out of all of us. She's been a regular featured comic at Catch a Rising Star in Vegas, in Zanies in Chicago. She's also opened for Jerry Seinfeld. You may have heard of him. Ellen DeGeneres, Drew Carey, Dana Carvey, Kevin Nealon. They want to start their shows out with a punch, and she sure does it. And as a writer and a cartoonist, she's been nominated for a Reuben Award, which is the Oscars of cartooning, which, by the way, shortly after I met her, or before I met her, she actually hosted the Reubens. So
yes.
She's just there. And she also is a regular at New York Comic Con, Creative Con in Panama City. She's like done it all. She's done books for Hallmark. She has this great book called The Older I Get, The Less I Care. And she has a book of cartoons from Andrews McNeil, as well as coloring books. I mean, the creativity just pours out of this woman. So I'm going to pour her right onto you, the listening audience. Welcome, Teresa.
Thank you. I'm so glad to see you.
Oh, it is such a delight to have you here. Well, I was trying to think how does one start as a comic? And I was thinking, I come, as you remember, from a large family. And so most of us developed our sense of humor around the highly competitive dinner table, which, if you got the best laugh, it was like, yay, more mashed potatoes, more green beans. Were you a funny kid? How did you develop all this?
This is funny because my family, I am I have a huge extended family. Mm-hmm. My mom had 3 brothers and sisters, and they have kids and grandkids, and and then my dad originally he had 10 brothers and sisters, and they all have kids, and everybody to a one in all my extended family is funnier than me. Much funnier than me. And so it was a funny thing, like when I started doing stand-up, people were are you hearing an echo? I'm hearing an echo now.
I'm not hearing an echo myself, but if you want to.
Sorry, everybody.
That's all right. Technicality.
Okay, I'm going to do this. It's going to interfere with my jewelry, but I'm going to do this. Because I am jeweled up.
Oh, you are.
I know, I wore the big statement stuff.
The statement too.
Well, it is a funny thing because it's like my whole extended family is so much funnier than me. And then when they were finding out that I was doing stand-up, it was kind of this thing where it's like, Teresa's doing stand-up? Teresa. Like, Teresa's one. Like, because really, when you're not the funniest person in dozens and dozens of people, and I do think because of the numbers and because, I think there's a certain Southern sense of humor. I'm from Tennessee and my family's all in Mississippi, and they're just very funny, very creative, friendly people. Mm-hmm. I do think it's that very Irish thing too, of just being able to talk and tell stuff. And so it is funny because my family, like my mom and my dad have a real quiet, dry sense of humor. My mm-hmm. mom's more like boisterous kind of and louder and just says things, whatever's on her mind. And I definitely got my sense of humor from them, but also from the family, like from being around them you had to think fast is how I always felt like I had to think fast to come back at what they were saying. And so I have a really funny, awesome, huge extended family who is to this day puzzled that I've made my living with humor. They're like, okay, if she can get somebody to buy that, okay, go ahead, Teresa.
Well, now, did you start on your feet as a comic, or did you start as a writer and cartoonist? I mean, I love the visual and the verbal aspects of your work.
Well, I think I've been cartooning since I was a little kid. And I remember doing this book called Snobby Models. And it was because that's how I always thought the models looked. Like I thought they had their noses in the air. And so all of them had their noses in the air. And they were wearing, I think it was because I just like drawing paisleys. So they all looked real paisley. I was always wanting Marsha Brady's clothes and stuff. So I would do that. But I drew and wrote poetry. I remember writing poems. I still have some of those. I loved writing limericks. And then when I went to school, though, I decided I want to focus on art. But I also remember the only time it ever crossed my mind doing stand-up comedy was one of my friends, and I had two other friends named Teresa. I kid you not, it was Teresa, and Teresa. And in middle school, and Teresa one said to me, she says, I was just doing voices. I always like doing voices. And she was like, have you ever thought of doing stand-up comedy? She was laughing really hard, and I was like, no, I never thought of that. Like, what a weird thing to think about doing, and it just did not occur to me again until years later, fast forward into the future, and I'm working as an artist writer at Hallmark Cards. And they had this thing called the Humor Workshop, which was the coolest thing. It was like, there was this guy named Gordon McKenzie, and he had some title that he had made up. It was so awesome, like creative anachronism, or he was just one of those cool, you were like, that's the job, man. I want to be Gordon someday. But he ran this thing called the Humor Workshop, and they would let people kind of rotate into it to learn cartooning and writing better and stuff. And I think I only did it for a couple of weeks, but there was a guy there that had been on the Tonight Show. I mean, had been on Letterman and done this stuff. Well, comes the time, every 6 months at Hallmark, people would do this big presentation, like, here's what our department's about, to the new artists and writers. And when I was at Hallmark, there were, I think, 700 artists and writers there. It was crazy creative. Like, it was so inspirational. And I'm still in touch with so many people from there. But we had to do presentations, and most people about our department. And usually it was like this, like, slideshow, and then this is the blah, 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 and this is the... Well, we decided to do a game show called You Bet Your Job. And so I borrowed a powder blue leisure suit from a guy in the Humor Workshop, and this adorable friend of mine named Nancy is beautiful, very brilliant blonde, but pretended she was a dumb blonde assistant. And we improv this whole thing, and we cut our boss's face out of Mylar and put questions behind it, and we would call up these new employees. And we improv the whole thing, and we got a lot of laughs, and it went over really well. And after, this guy that did stand-up, Howard Taylor, he came up to me and he said, have you ever thought of doing stand-up? And I'm like, that's the second time in about 25 years someone's asked me that, but because I was young. And he said, I think you ought to try stand-up. And so he took me to some open mic nights, and then I thought, well, I can be that bad. And I knew I could. And that is the thing about going to open mic nights. There's going to be some bad people, and that's encouraging because, and by the way, I'm not dissing open mic people, because I think it's super brave. It's the bravest thing to get up behind a microphone, especially that first time. And just getting up there, you're saying, I think I'm funny enough that you should listen to everything I have to say, which is so arrogant, really. But anyway, that's how I got into stand-up.
Oh, yeah, wow. Well, I say, if two people tell you in 25 years, that is the...
I know. I had to wait like 15 years for the next one, or 10. I don't know. I get math. Let's not do math.
And now, so meanwhile, you were continuing doing your visual art.
Oh,
Were
yes.
you creating greeting cards for Hallmark and doing other stuff, or that was kind of your main focus? And was that Kansas City, by the way?
That was in Kansas City, Missouri. I worked at the headquarters. And then what I started doing was I started getting work, actual paid comedy work. And, well, I went out on the road and I would come back and I'd get back really late. And then I'd have to be at my desk painting and drawing and writing the next morning at Hallmark at 8 a.m., which is a great gig. I loved working at Hallmark.
Mm-hmm.
But there came a time where I was getting so much comedy work that I was having to turn down stuff that I would have to go on the road for and then not be able to get back to my job at 8 a.m. the next day for,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I finally decided, this is one of those things I don't ever want to look back and think, I should have tried that, and I didn't. And so I quit my job at Hallmark. And I will tell you that one of the managers there, it wasn't it was really a hard decision on a lot of levels because I loved it. And I had so many close friends to this day that I made there. But I did have a manager say to me, you know, if this comedy thing doesn't work out for you and you want to come back, you know, just talk to us. And I don't know that she really had the authority to say that to me, you know. I don't know if she was just trying to make me feel good, but she was very sweet. And you know what? They gave me freelance. So I did do freelance on the road, but then it also got really hard to keep up with that. And I had to just stop doing freelance for a while and just do because my road gigs were generally, I'd be home on Sunday, Monday, hit the road on Tuesday. I put 1,000 miles a week on my car those first 2 years.
Wow.
So I often meet people from towns in the Midwest and they'll go, oh, you've never heard of it. And I'm like, I've done comedy in that town. You know, I know how that.
Oh, how great.
I know I sound like like Shecky Green now when I talk like that, don't I? So much really old. Wow. And another story from the road.
Do you miss the road?
I miss parts of it because every week you met somebody, a couple of different comics. A lot of times you worked with amazing people. Sometimes you worked with scary people. You know, I worked with a guy one time in Vegas, and he was very serious about his ventriloquist dummy. And you would be in the green room, and he would be, you know, does his hair look all right? How's his hair? And I'm like, oh, his hair looks great. You've got he's such a great dummy. And then he would look a little hurt that you called it a dummy. And he would say, like, you know, his name is Bob or whatever. And he was serious. And if he was doing a character, he never broke character the whole week. And it was scary. And the headliner even came over to me and was like, does that guy give you the creeps a little bit? I was like, yeah. I said, I'm not hanging out with him actually outside the green room because he's scaring me. And I watch a lot of horror movies, and that guy's in most horror movies.
I was going to ask you about that.
The guy that won't let you call it a dummy. Okay. All right.
For our viewers who might not know Teresa as well as I do, tell me where your deep, abiding love of Halloween comes from.
Oh, I started to say that's a good question, but I have a pet peeve about people saying that's a good question. And now I've taken up 15 seconds talking about that. Okay, Halloween. I'm an October baby. That might be where I have so many positive things to say about all the parties I had that were Halloween themed. And then it's just one of those holidays that it's all about the night and it's all about dressing up and having fun, and you can be anybody you want to be, and you can be scary or you can be silly or you can be funny, and there's not a prescription for how to be. I will say Christmas isn't my favorite at all. I mean, I like looking at lights and everything, and I actually have white lights year round in my studio and just, you know, but Christmas has a lot of stuff with it. Christmas has church services to go to and gifts to buy and meals to cook. And And with Halloween, everything's just a bonus. Like I make a lot of snacks on Halloween when there's not a plague. Um, this year I actually did I always do goodie bags. I did put goodie bags out, and then I would go replenish them and kept them socially distanced, and then the kids came out and took them, and then I would run out and replace it. So we did kind of do Halloween this year. But I just love Halloween. I like witchy things. I usually wear black 100% of the time. I'm embracing my inner crone very much right now. But I didn't wear black today. I seriously wear black all the time, but I'm going to wear my New York sweater for my New York friend.
Look at this.
Yes, pigeons, Gotham. I even have Batman here somewhere.
Oh. That is fabulous.
But no, I just love Halloween, and I love the color. Orange is my favorite color, and black is my favorite color. It really is. And I know people like to argue about the whole, is it? No, pick a color. And I'm like, black though, black. Oh, but I love black and orange, and I just love the whole theatrical nature, I guess is what I'm trying to say, of Halloween. And it's all about just giving candy to kids, to strangers, like being little adorable kids come into your door, and I loved it. And Halloween was so great in my neighborhood when I grew up too. But that October birthday might have something to do with it.
Oh yeah. Well, that does make a difference when everyone's playing along. I love your ballet ghost, which is something.
Thank you.
Teresa has an Etsy shop, and
ballet ghost.
You have it right there. Oh, look at this ballet ghost.
That's my puppet. This is what we've broken down to during Zoom. Is we're doing puppets on coffee sticks. So that's ballet ghost. I did see, and he was right there. I didn't even know you were going to talk about him. But.
I love it. Well, that's that psychic connection, because I put out my ballet ghost book every year, and I'm so happy to have it in.
Thank you. I have a series. I've got ballet ghost at Halloween in different costumes too. So I'll send you one of those. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Perhaps you would show a little bit of maybe one of your sketchbooks, so that folks can get an idea of the tremendous visual strength. I was thinking when you were talking about black, it's no surprise, because what you do in black and white and gray wash is just stunning.
Thank you. Like this, I keep. This is one of my books, and then sometimes I'll do really detailed kind of stuff like that. Sometimes I do. Now my paint. Sometimes I sit and just doodle because I love it. And I like to use just cheap notebook paper a lot too. I buy nice stuff, but I also. This is just something I was doing at the eye doctor. I went to the eye doctor today, and I actually did the eye before I went to the eye doctor. But I guess I had my anxiety about going outside the house. I'm not kidding. I've been so good during this pandemic, and I'm like, but I don't want to go to the doctor. Let me see. Here's a spread, and this is marker. This is just like I love doing. I don't know if it's okay to show.
Sure. This to me looks like stained glass. I just
somebody else said that about.
Yeah.
I love doing black and white a lot.
Ooh.
And I love bat wings and stuff. So that's a lot of the kind of stuff. And I do a lot of angels. I don't know if I have. Here's a piece here. And I like doing collage things.
Ooh, yeah.
So this one, I'm going to be selling prints of these because I like to fill my sketchbooks, and you see I do them back to back. So I can't really sell the originals of the sketchbook stuff.
Yeah.
Unless somebody wants to pay me just some insane amount of money for the sketchbook.
Well, I understand. In my research, I found that Whoopi Goldberg is a collector of yours, and there are other pretty fantastic names. As a matter of fact, we just found out today that Janice Ian is a big supporter of yours. She's doing, what kind of a project is this that she's collecting wonderful feelings about? It sounds very glad to be here.
It's called Better Times Will Come. And she is doing this thing that she's getting musicians and artists and all kinds of people to put things on her site, just free content to get us through this. And I've done several coloring books, and I think I have at least 400 coloring drawings here, that are drawings to be colored. And so we put, I think, close to 20 on hers. And so they're downloadable. If you go to janiceian.com and then you go to the Better Times Will Come part, then you'll see the links to the coloring and all that. And I do want to be clear on the Whoopi Goldberg thing. Like, she does have a piece of mine, and I'm told it hangs in her dressing room at the View, but it was a gift that Sherry Shepherd commissioned for her. So Sherry Shepherd had bought some work for me and then commissioned twin pieces, kind of sister pieces, I called them, because they were just portraits of both of them in collages. So yeah, so with Whoopi and other people, like, that's an amazing thing when creative people, and I know Whoopi's a big collector of art. I would love for her to talk to people more even than she does. I love how she talks about art and collecting art. And what Sherry told me was that she said, how do you know what you want to buy? And Whoopi said, you'll know. And Sherry walked in my house one day and there was a piece, and she goes, where did that come from? And I said, I painted that. And she goes, and I don't think she even knew that I really did paintings, because she knows me from comedy. And anyway, it's cool how stuff like that happens. And then the Janice Ian thing is a cartoonist friend of mine connected us. And so, yeah.
Wow. And you were talking to me a little bit earlier about your fine arts. I didn't realize you did fine arts as well, that are also, we can view them on Laughing Redhead at Etsy. Is that right?
Well, yeah. If you go to Etsy and go etsy.com and then look up Laughing Redhead, and then you can find my shop. And most of my social media is Laughing Redhead, like my Instagram and all that. And on my Instagram, I also have a link tree and on my site, you can, laughingredhead.com, you can go to all the shops, and there's original art, or you can buy comics, which I've self-published and stuff. I can show you that. I'll have to unplug a sec.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to unplug.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Oh, good. And it's not echoing now. You know what it was? I had a speaker. Okay, this is a comic book I put together. And yeah, so this is volume 1. And
I can't. I'm trying to make you the main person.
And it's just, I put ghost stories and things in there, and just all kinds of stuff, drawings and that kind of stuff. So it's full of all kinds of things and drawings and ink. And Ballet Ghost is on the back.
Oh, yay, Ballet Ghost. Wow. Well,
so yeah, thank you for letting me show that, because I am really bad about, people know you from one thing or they know you from another thing. And then sometimes I'll have people go, you're a comedian? And I go, oh yeah, I actually have not been doing much comedy for a few months, as you probably know.
What? In this hilarious time?
But the only comedy show I've done so far was a friend of mine asked me to do a suicide awareness show. And I was like, see, because to me, stand-up right now, it's not stand-up. It ain't stand-up. It's a different art form that is born of this time, and I was thinking, what am I going to do? So that's what I did. I actually made puppets. And I just read jokes. Like everybody else was kind of doing stand-up. Like they were trying to make it like a stand. And they were doing fine, but I knew that was going to stress me out so bad. Like I thought, oh my God, it's not stand-up. I can't, and I've seen people pull it off, but I know me. And I was like, I'm just going to read jokes. So I would go like a family joke, and I'd read a joke and they'd laugh, Oh, well, it looked like they were laughing. They were all muted, which was so joyful.
So helpful in comedy.
I know.
With the audience.
Yeah. And I've agreed to do a performance in February, but it's seriously like every time I agree to do something, I'm kind of like, what? I don't know. I'm trying to really not try to do stand-up right now, except, with the puppetry, which I'm obviously so good at.
They're just adorable. They're just adorable. Do you have a little scene you could do for us?
Well, I have some political characters, but I don't want to get into them. Oh, but because I like doing their voices.
Glad to be human, don't we?
Yeah, I just want to be happy time right now.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, so I do. I just kind of like to do voices and stuff, but that's what I did. I did cutouts and all that.
Well, see, that's what I was going to ask you. What has changed for you during the pandemic? And clearly, you're finding a totally new art form, Zoomedy.
Zoomedy, I like that. So, well, you know what, Irene? It hasn't, like, life hasn't changed for me a ton as far as, because I work from home and I feel, first of all, I'm not whining about this because I am so fortunate. I have a roof over my head. I have food on my table.
Yeah.
I work from home. I have gotten more work during the pandemic because I honestly think that's because people have had a moment to go, you know, that thing I backburnered that I wanted an artist for, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm doing that. Yeah. But the thing that I do whine about is I miss going to movies and theater. I miss that so much. Yeah. I miss. I liked going every time a horror movie would open. I go to a horror movie on its opening weekend, so it gets the box office, and I feel like that matters. I'm so self-deluded, but I do like supporting the arts, and I miss going to museums. I miss, but I think when people ask me, like, the number one thing that pops into my head is movie theater.
Yeah.
But I've kind of just, you know, I get up and write. I'm working on this screenplay. I think I've mentioned to you that I'm working on a horror screenplay to enter into a film festival. And I have found my sweet spot of writing is like 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. And that feels either that or super early in the morning and then before 10. Like I can really crank 6 to 10. I can really crank 9 to 3. I don't know what it is. I'm a night person, but I have just really found that there's something zooming. I'm sorry I used that word. I hate that word now. I don't hate zooming, but I'm sick of the word zooming.
Yeah. Well, I think that sounds like a perfect horror screenplay time to write, you know,
it is
at night and very early in the morning, and you know, you have so much sunshine in you. It's really interesting to me that moonlight comes out too.
I love see, and this is the thing, like, see, the moon is my thing. Like, I love the moon. The sun, I'm not a sun person. I do love swimming. And I like the sun to be out when I'm swimming in the ocean because there are things that can bite you in half. And
I never think of that when I go swimming in the ocean.
You know, I love swimming in the ocean. I do, but I don't know.
Yeah. Not to mention those little
well, and my mom is moving to she lives on a bayou. Now she's moving to right on a bayou in Florida. And she's like, but you can't swim in the water there. She's got a little pier, a little tiny. And she said, but you can't swim in the water because it's brackish and it has gators and bull sharks in it. I'm like, oh my God.
Serious?
There's like things that can eat you like 10 feet from her door.
This is not what we think the golden years are about. You know?
I know. I was like, are you going to even go out on the little pier thing and fish or anything?
Don't have a picnic.
Like, I've seen enough horror. I mean, one of my favorite cheesy movies is Anaconda.
Ooh.
That's a good old movie.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe we're like 2 minutes away from the end of our show.
Oh my gosh.
I can't believe it. Unbelievable. But I do have the chance to ask you just what makes you glad to be human?
What makes me glad to be human? I would say having big country music hair because no, but you know what? The first thing I think of is my family. Like, I'm so thankful for my family and that when I say my family, I mean my parents, I mean my, you know, extended family. I have an amazing extended family. I have an amazing husband and brother and a son, and I am just amazed at the goodness that I get from having just amazing people around me. But I also would say, I mean, Gary and I were talking about this today because my husband's a writer and an actor and a director. And we were talking about like how good it feels to have creative pursuits, that we're never bored, that you get a sense, you can take a piece of paper and not be bored, or you can, that you can do creative things and that feels good, and it doesn't have to come from somewhere else necessarily. And I think, and as I say that, see, I don't like to talk about being creative like it's this thing that came down on you from above and you're blessed. And because I feel like even people who don't think of themselves as creative are very creative. And I always like to say, just don't think about the end product. Just do the thing. Just scribble in the book. Just start the pen moving. Just get it going, and don't feel like you have to share it if you don't want to, or it has to be good. And I feel like our society hurts so many people that can do creative things, and they stop themselves because they were never an artist or a writer. And I just feel like our culture really tamps that down. And I want more people to feel that, like, you are creative. You do have creative things you can do. Just go buy a craft kit, or just pick up a Bic pen. One of my favorite books, can I pull a book real quick?
Please do, yes.
One of my favorite books in the world is this book by, which has won every award. I'm trying to see if you can see it. My favorite thing is Monsters.
Wow.
Neil Ferris.
I don't know this book.
She has won every award, and she did this with Bic pens. And she has won deservedly every award that she can win. She did it when she was 56, and she was having physical problems. And she said her daughter literally had to help her hold the pen sometimes. And there's so much that's so inspirational about this book. It's a gorgeous book. It's a great story. And art. And I just love, I look at that, I'm like, I mean, don't get intimidated by that because it's so amazing high level. But I thought, she took a Bic pen and notebook paper, and I just wish more people felt like they could do that without having it be genius. Like, just doodle, just do circles, just draw lines, and don't judge yourself all the time when you're trying to just do. You know, don't try to be a creator, you know.
No creative creators for us. No, I completely agree. And
I'm so weird. Like, I'd never look at the right place here because I'm trying to make eye contact with you. And I always feel like I'm shifty.
I always want to do it, but for those who don't know what happens behind the scenes, there's a little green light at the top of the computer screen that you are to look at if you want people to think you are making eye contact, which can also drive you a little crazy because you're not actually looking at the face that you want to be looking at. But
it's true. It's true. I'm looking at y'all now, but it's funny because if you saw me looking off to the side, it's not because I've got a meal sitting there waiting to be eaten.
Come on, let's get this over with.
It's because there's Irene, and I'm just looking at her lovely face. I love you so much, and I love you
too. Thank you so much for gracing our program today. Everybody, head over to Etsy. Look at Laughing Redhead. These are great gifts for people. Even if you know Whoopi Goldberg, you could get her a gift.
Yeah, Whoopi.
And here's our closing theme song.
That's peaceful. Can you just call me twice a day and do that?
It would be my joy. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Thank you so much, Teresa.
Thank you. I love you.
See you next time.
Okay. Bye, Irene.